Welcome, curious minds, to another deep dive. Today, we're plunging into a really fascinating, it's sometimes a bit heartbreaking corner of the hobby world. We're talking about the intricate, often challenging journey of breeding angelfish. Our source for this is a wonderfully candid personal reflection. It's titled Angelfish Breeding, A Hard Lesson Learned. It's from an author known as Ang, and it chronicles their attempts from about 6 years ago, back in 2019. This isn't just a basic how-to, it's a story rich with real-world experience, setbacks, and that hard-won wisdom you get from, well, from failure as much as success. So our mission today, let's unpack Ang's journey from that first spark of success through the challenges and really pull out the valuable insights, those hard lessons. Think of it as a shortcut, maybe, to understanding the real complexities that a dedicated hobbyist faces, especially when they try a new species.
This reflection from Ang gives such a unique window. It's really detailed into the realities of, well, quite a demanding hobby. It highlights right away that even if you've had success before, like breeding other fish,
Yes.
each new species is its own beast, its own set of challenges. What Ang shares is just a very candid look, both the joys, which are huge, and the frustrations, which can be pretty profound in fish keeping. It's a very human story really happening in an aquarium.
Okay, let's dive into Ang's journey then. Now, this wasn't their first time breeding fish. The author had already had success with betas, those vibrant, feisty little guys. And then also jewel cichlids, which are known for some pretty complex, interesting parenting. So for Ang, it probably felt like a natural next step, turning attention to another popular, and let's face it, beautiful fish, the angelfish. And, initially, it paid off. Ang describes this real breakthrough moment. They actually managed to get a bonded pair of angelfish. They mated, and excitingly, they laid eggs. Now, for any aspiring breeder, seeing that first spawn, that's a huge milestone. It's that moment where all the planning, the patience, it starts to feel real. You're seeing nature happen right there in your tank.
Yeah, that initial success is fantastic, a great start. But it immediately brings up one of the first major hurdles for angelfish breeders. If you're thinking about getting into this, how do you even start? I mean, just identifying the gender of your fish is notoriously difficult.
That's a really good point. You hear that all the time, that it's almost impossible to tell. So what makes it so tricky with angels?
It really is surprisingly difficult, a huge point of frustration for many people. Unlike lots of other fish, angelfish don't really have obvious sexual dimorphism, meaning, males and females just don't look that different on the outside. You basically can't tell male from female until they're, at least 6 months old. And critically, only when they're actually ready to mate. Only then do their breeding tubes extend. The females is broader, blunter for laying eggs, and the males is narrower, more pointed for fertilizing.
So you can't just go to the store and pick out a boy and a girl.
That's exactly right, which is why Ang was incredibly fortunate here, right at the start. They got 2 angelfish that, just by chance, were opposite sexes, and they bonded pretty quickly, like within a month. That is definitely not the usual way. Normally, if you're serious about breeding angels, the common advice, the recommended method, is to buy a group, at least 6, maybe even 8 young fish. Then you grow them out together, let them pair off naturally, and you just hope you've got a mix of genders in there. It takes more money, more space, a lot more patience. So yeah, Ang getting a bonded pair that quickly, that was some serious luck.
Okay, so Ang had this lucky pair. Let's unpack the specific setup they used for the spawning tank. The author calls it a simple setup, which I like. It was a medium-sized aquarium, a sponge filter, that's for gentle filtration, right? Crucial for eggs and fry.
Mm-hmm.
And a pot of aquatic plants. Ang does mention, looking back, they should have added more water sprite. Why is a plant like water sprite important in a spawning tank? Especially, maybe, for the fry.
That's a really sharp observation from Ang. And it highlights something key for raising fry successfully. Water sprite, it's a fantastic plant, grows fast, gets really dense. For tiny, vulnerable angelfish fry, it provides essential cover, hiding spots, protects them from maybe getting eaten by the parents, or just gives them security. Plus, it provides a surface for tiny microorganisms to grow, which can be like a first food source for the fry. It's a simple thing to add, but it can really boost survival rates.
Okay, so plants for cover. But beyond the plants, maybe the most crucial element in that simple setup was a ceramic tile. Why is something so basic, like a tile, so important? What's its role?
Oh, it's absolutely fundamental. Angelfish are what we call substrate spawners.
Yeah.
This just means they need a vertical surface. It could be a tall plant leaf, a piece of slate, or, a ceramic tile. They need it to lay their eggs on meticulously. Without that, the whole process just can't happen naturally. The female literally has nowhere to put the eggs. It's pure instinct.
And it sounds like it was fascinating to watch. Ang describes seeing the female carefully depositing this neat vertical line of eggs right onto the tile, and then the male would follow right after, fertilizing them. It's like a little underwater ballet. But the cool stuff didn't stop there. Aang talks about this surprising level of parental care from the fish. Both parents took turns diligently fanning the eggs. What's the point of all that fanning?
Yeah, that fanning is incredibly important. Two main reasons, really. First, it keeps good water circulating over the eggs, vital for oxygen. Second, it helps stop fungus from growing on those delicate eggs. Fungus can spread fast and wipe out a whole spawn. And the parents also carefully pick out any unfertilized eggs, the ones that turn white, to keep them from messing up the water or infecting the good ones. It's a full-time job for them.
Wow. And then came the next magical stage. The fry hatched. These tiny little things, initially they're just sort of free-swimming wigglers still living off their yolk sacs. Aang saw the parents then move them carefully to a safe corner of the tank.
It's amazing to see that instinct, isn't it? Absolutely. That level of care tells you a lot about angelfish reproductive strategy. It shows that active parental protection is really significant for the young surviving. They don't just lay eggs and leave, and Aang's hindsight here is so insightful again. They noted that, looking back, maybe they should have added substrates or artificial caves. More options for the parents to move those wigglers. That observation just perfectly shows how every little detail, every success, every challenge in this hobby leads to new learning, a deeper understanding of the fish.
Okay, here's where the story takes a really crucial and honestly quite heartbreaking turn. Despite all that initial success, the amazing parental care, the fry actually hatching, the whole breeding project ultimately failed. Such a tragic outcome after so much promise and effort. And the cause, Aang states it clearly, was a water quality issue. This happened when they were away for just a few days, and it led to the loss of the entire spawn. Devastating. All that work, that parental devotion, just undone by an invisible shift in the water. Can you elaborate on just how fast things can go wrong with angelfish fry when water quality dips?
Yeah, this incident it's a stark reminder, a powerful one, of the incredibly delicate balance you need in fish keeping, especially with sensitive species like angelfish. They are just inherently sensitive, even to slight changes, as Aang put it, in their water, particularly things like pH stability or undetectable ammonia or nitrite, or even sudden nitrate spikes. These can be absolutely devastating to fragile fry. Their immune systems, their ability to regulate salt and water, it's all still developing. So yeah, even a short absence, like Aang experienced, can have catastrophic results when you're dealing with such a finely tuned biological system.
So it's not just about generally clean water, but about stable water, perfectly balanced parameters all the time.
Precisely. Stability is paramount. That's the key word. Angelfish, especially the fry, they just don't tolerate rapid changes well at all. So this really highlights how critical constant monitoring is. Maintaining those stable conditions. It's a powerful lesson, yet maybe an unforgiving one, about environmental variables and the sheer level of commitment it takes to breed them successfully. Puts the daily dedication needed into perspective.
Right. So with all that in mind, let's shift to Aang's reflection. Would they try breeding angelfish again today? The answer they give is basically not really. So what does that decision tell us about the kind of long-term commitment needed? And what makes Aang hesitate now?
Well, Aang's view here is very pragmatic, very realistic, I think. It really shows what it takes to sustain a complex animal project like this over time. It's not just about getting that initial success right. It's about having the resources consistently, the ongoing effort, and really understanding the species' needs day in, day out.
Aang gives several specific reasons for this hesitation, and they really hammer home the practical challenges. First, they say they'd only consider it if they set up a dedicated indoor fish room, which they say is not likely given the circumstances. I mean, that's a huge commitment right there. Space, resources.
Exactly. A dedicated fish room isn't trivial. It means controlled environments, multiple tanks, maybe special plumbing or filtration. It's a significant barrier for a lot of home hobbyists. It definitely shifts it from being just a casual hobby to something more serious, almost semi-pro.
Second, Aang mentions that other attempts they did make later were unsuccessful, mostly because of that ongoing difficulty, that persistent challenge of identifying the gender of mature fish. So it didn't get easier with experience.
And that just shows how tough that gender ID really is with angelfish. Even if you raise a whole group, you might not get good pairs, or the pairs you get might not bond properly. It's a recurring, frustrating problem.
Third, angelfish themselves, as Aang points out, are rather expensive. That adds a pretty significant financial barrier to getting new fish and trying again, especially if you need to buy that group of 6 or 8 just hoping for a pair.
Yeah, that cost definitely compounds the gender issue. You're investing quite a bit in multiple fish with zero guarantee of getting a breeding pair. And then there are the ongoing costs too. Food, equipment, electricity, water conditioners. It all adds up pretty quickly.
And finally, that inherent sensitivity to those slight changes in their water environment. That remains a constant hurdle, as that first devastating loss proved.
Right. And this kind of ties all the points together, doesn't it? You need the right stage, which is hard to guarantee.
Yeah.
You need the right setup, maybe even a dedicated room. And then you need that unwavering consistency in care and water stability. Aang's reflection really gives you this holistic view of the sheer effort involved. It's a powerful reminder that not every passion project is easily repeatable or sustainable, not without significant, sustained investment time, money, and continuous learning. It's about weighing those immense demands against the personal reward, I suppose.
And that brings us towards the end of another, I think, really captivating deep dive. Today, we've explored the wonder, but also the very specific challenges of angelfish breeding, all through Aang's personal story. We touched on those initial triumphs, the tricky business of gender ID, the tank setup needing that vertical surface, the plants, the beautiful parental care, and then the devastating impact of environmental sensitivity. It's really clear there are valuable lessons here, from the successes, sure, but maybe even more so from the failures in this demanding but obviously rewarding hobby.
Yeah, absolutely. This whole deep dive into Aang's angelfish breeding attempt, even with the initial promise and the sad setback, it illustrates something important, I think. True expertise, especially in something like aquaculture, often comes not just from getting that success that spawned, but from really understanding why things failed. It's about recognizing that relentless commitment needed for environmental stability, particularly for vulnerable fry, and those often underestimated challenges like gender ID and just the sheer resources needed for sustained breeding. So maybe a final thought for you. Thinking about any complex endeavor you might pursue, what specific measurable lessons can you draw from Aang's experience about commitment, resilience, and maybe the critical importance of understanding every tiny detail of whatever path you choose?